Wesley Poke for Pound Pups vlog 12 coming at you. We've been running super good. I mean, just unsustainably super lucky. Whether it's been the recorded videos that you've seen or me playing off camera, I've just been hitting everything. I've been hitting flops. I've been avoiding coolers. I've been winning when I had kings versus aces. Everything's been going my way. So let's see if we can keep it going or if the tide turns. Vlog number 12. Hope you enjoy it. By the way, for any of you who are avid card players and or want to get into poker vlogging, let me know. I can connect you with my editor who also runs Draw Code Games and is the editor of Card Room. He's got a great game on there, which I think has Solitaire, Rummy 500, and a game called Deuces, which is my favorite. You can play those games for free. More importantly, if you're interested in vlogging, he can make your life 10 times easier and he can make your presentation significantly more professional. Back in the day, all the vlogs that I did were 100% manual, and now I just type things into his spreadsheet. He's got some macros set up. He runs it all with AI and AWS, and so I don't have to worry about a thing. It is significantly faster and makes my life so much easier. So again, if you're interested, I'll put the link down below in the description. Just like last time, we make $262 while waiting to get on the 3-5 table playing 1-2-2. Let's get into these hands at 3-5-10. +2 opens to 35, and I have King Jack of Hearts on the button. I can go either way with just calling or raising. And this time I put in the call and the big blind is priced in. He comes along as well. So we go 3 ways to a flop of Jack, Jack 10 with 2 diamonds. We flop trips. The initial raiser c-bets for 45. I call. The big blind calls as well. So everything's on the table and we go to the turn, which isn't great. The 5 of diamonds bringing in the front door flush. It checks to me. I'm going to bet for value. I make it 75. The big blind folds and the initial raiser calls. Now he could have a flush, but more than likely the way that this hand is played out, I put him on an overpair. The river's a brick. He checks. I make it 175 and he goes deep into the tank. After a while, he can't help himself. He puts in the call. I show my trip jacks. They're good. And he confirms that he had an overpair. Great start to playing 3-5. Pocket jacks from under the gun +2. I open things up to 35 and get called by the low jack and the aggressive player in the straddle. 3 ways is not ideal with pocket jacks, and we go to a flop of ace, ace 9 with 2 diamonds. In hindsight, I think the correct play here is a check, but it's also really good for my range. So when it gets to me, I c-bet for $40. The low jack, who's typically pretty sticky, puts in the call and the straddle folds. Thankfully, we're heads up and the turn is a king. I check this time and the low jack bets 75. Most likely, he has either an ace or a diamond draw. I've seen him try and steal multiple pots over the several times that I've played with him, so it's no surprise that he's going to bet when I check. The way that I've played it, I just have to stick in the call. The river's a 10 of hearts. I check and he bets 215. Either he has a monster or he missed his diamonds. I have the jack of diamonds, which isn't great because it makes it less likely that he was on a diamond draw. It's a board that favors me, so for him to show this kind of strength should make it less likely that he's bluffing. With that being said, I've seen him bluff several times, and I've shown a capped range, so I wouldn't put it past him to try and steal this from me.
Do you have an ace or did you miss diamonds? That's the question. Oh!
Even better.
Oh, nice hand. Nice hand. Nice hand.
My curiosity gets the better of me. He shows pocket 9s for a flopped full house. Ugh. Let's get back to our winning ways with 6-5 suited on the straddle. It folds around, the blinds both limp, so let's try and take it down. I make it 55. The aggressive player sitting in the small blind probably has nothing, or else he would have tried to steal the pot himself. He decides to call, and the big blind gets out of the way. And we go heads up to a flop of Jack, Jack 4. This player's super aggressive. For him to just limp call is pretty telling. He checks. I continuation bet to $50. He says he doesn't believe me, but folds anyway. The very next hand, we get another suited connector, 5-4 of diamonds in the big blind. There's one limper before it gets to me, and I could go either way with just flatting or raising this and trying to isolate. The straddle is unlikely to raise because he's been really conservative, not raising much pre-flop. So I decide to realize my equity and I just stick in the call. Coincidentally, this time he decides to raise to $45. If I can flop something nice, I might get paid off if he's got a premium like queens, kings, or aces. So despite being out of position and having only 5 high, I stick in the call and see a flop, hoping to land something good. Our wish is granted with a flop of king 4-4, although if he's got pocket kings, he's going to double up here. I check, and he checks it back. The turn isn't helpful as it's the ace of hearts. I could try and get value from an ace here, but in the moment, I thought the better play was just to check and hope that he would lead out either with a single heart holding or with an ace. Alas, he checks back. The river is a 4th heart, this time a jack. I'd initially put him on some kind of overpair or maybe a really strong ace. So this has gone from a beautiful flop where we got trips to just a disastrous run out. I check. He shows pocket nines without a heart, says it can't be good, and he checks. We'll take the baby pot, but at least we're chipping up a little bit rather than losing after flopping trips. Back into the win column. 2 wins in a row and we move on to the next hand. Sitting in mid position, I look down at ace 10 offsuit. I raise to 35 and get called by the big blind, who's the same guy who I flopped trip jacks on a little bit earlier when he had an overpair. This time around, we go to a flop of 10-10-3 with 2 clubs, and I have the ace of clubs, so I'm not really too worried about him having a flush draw. Considering that I'm going to miss this board most of the time, and I'm not too worried about a flush draw, I think the best play is to check, so that's what I do. The turn is the ace of spades. We've got a full house. He checks, and of course I'm going to bet this ace every time whether I have one or not, so hopefully he either doesn't believe me or has an ace himself, and he calls. The river's the 7 of diamonds. He checks, and I size up, trying to make it look a little bluffy and also trying to get value from an ace. I make it 115, although in hindsight, given the size of the pot, I probably could have gone a little bit bigger. He thinks about it for a few seconds, puts in the call, and I show him the bad news. This poor guy's having a rough day. The next hand brings some action with good old ace-king. Cutoff opens a 35 and gets raised by the aggressive player on our right, who happens to be on the button this time, who's made it 140. This is the same player who said he didn't believe us earlier when we had 6-5 suited but folded anyway. This time I actually do have something. I'm out of position. This is an aggressive player. If I was in position, I might just call. But out of position against an aggressive player who doesn't believe us, I'm going to 4-bet this every time. I put the pressure back on him, and I 4-bet, making it 340. It folds back around to him, and he goes all in. He covers us. We put nearly half our stack in there already. So even though it doesn't feel great to go up against a 5-bet without aces or kings, it's a pretty easy call. I throw in a chip, and the flop does us no favors as it comes out low, although it does have 2 diamonds, and the turn brings in a third. We've got a lot of outs. The river is a blank. Hopefully he's got ace-king. Hopefully he's got ace-king. He shows us pocket jacks, and just like that, we lose a $1,600 massive flip. Ugh. Back to square one. Well, square -1. All right, so we put some more cash on the table. It's time to rebuy, and the next hand is beautiful. The queen 10 of diamonds. Is it just me, or are those suited Broadway cards just prettier when they're red? The same aggressive player who just felted us opens from the low jack to $40, and I could go either way with a call or a 3-bet. If I just call, I'm giving anyone a good price. So I isolate and 3-bet to 145. Sure enough, it folds back around to the aggressive player, and he calls, so we're going heads up in position to a flop of 9-7 deuce rainbow. He's highly capable of check raising. He knows I'm going to miss this board a lot. So when he checks, I'd rather just realize my equity, so I check it back. The turn is another brick, No pain on the board, and this time he beats me to it and fires out a $90 bet. This could be a bet for value, it could be a bet for protection, it could just be a probing bet. But no matter what he has, he's probably got more equity than I do when I just have queen high. And I'm tired of giving him my money. I decide to just give up on this one. I fold, looking for a better spot in the future. After being card dead for literally 2 hours, pocket tens start to look like pocket kings. I open from under the gun +1 to $35 and get called by the cutoff, who's been pretty face up and kind of old man coffee-ish. He doesn't typically give his chips away unless he's short stacked. The flop comes out ace, ace, 4, rainbow. I could c-bet this, but out of position against a tight player, I think he'll show up with a lot of aces in his hand here. And if he doesn't have an ace, I'm not going to get any value. So if I'm ahead and I bet, I'm just going to get him to fold. And if I'm behind, I'm just giving him money. So I decide to check it. He checks it back. That's a good sign. The turn is a 3 of hearts. Also good. But for similar reasons, I check again and he follows suit. Okay. I'm really sure I've got the best hand now. Let's see another non-face card. And the river is a 6. Backdoor hearts get there, but I think it's time to get some value from any of his lower pocket pairs. I make it 35, looking to get paid off by 8s or 9s, and he makes it 150. Considering how I play this hand, it probably looks like I'm just trying to steal this pot. So either he has a monster and wants to get paid off, or he just doesn't believe me based on my line. My hand is under-repped, and his sizing just looks funky. I call. He flips over ace jack. Well played, sir. You just owned me. The double check got me, and you deserve my $150. Here you go.
All right, we've been here probably 5 hours, probably a little bit longer. The biggest hands I've had have been tens and jacks and ace king, and I've lost with all of those hands actually. So not great. I picked up trips a couple times, made some money on that, but otherwise it's been slim pickings. People have also flopped a full house and trips against me when I've had solid holdings. And really the big swinging hand was an all-in ace king against an aggressive player. He had jacks. It was a $1,600, $1,700 pot, and we lost the flip. So because of that, we are down. Give it another hour or two, see if we can make a comeback.
It folds to me. I'm in late position with ace jack offsuit. This is a mandatory raise. I make it 35. I get called by the cutoff, who's been pretty passive. The flop comes 9-7-6. Typical. Gross. I'm out of position. All I have is ace high. The positive thing is I think my opponent will just play face up if he has anything rather than trying to steal it. So I check and he checks it back. The turn is the ace of clubs. I check and he bets $50. I'm definitely under-repped. I stick in the call. The river's another 7. I have a feeling I have the best hand. He could have ace queen or ace king. Yes, I've seen him flat with both of those hands already in this session. But I don't see him checking a 7 on the flop and then betting it on the turn when an ace comes out. So I don't think he has a 7. I think he probably just has a weaker ace. So I bet 105 for value and he snap calls. I turn over my ace jack and he reveals ace 10. Finally, we win one of these close pots, even though it's a pretty small one. Feels like nothing's been going our way lately, so nice to get back on the winning side of things. Most of my best sessions are in the 2 to 3 hour range, so it's no surprise that 7 hours in, I'm playing 4-3 suited when I'm trying to get out of the hole. I'd bumped it up to 45 pre-flop, only to get 3-bet by the passive player in the small blind. This is his first 3-bet, but it's only $70 more to see a flop with suited connectors in position. It's not a great idea, especially against this opponent who hasn't really raised much, but I put in the call. The flop comes out queen high with a 3, and I'm now beating all of his ace-king hands. He checks, and I bet for protection and make it $100. Just like that, he comes way over the top with a massive raise, say, I don't think my one pair is good, and I fold. And he says, I think my pair was pretty good. I'd show you, but I don't want anyone else to see. More or less tells me he's got aces or kings. He hasn't 3-bet anything else all day. He owned me. I've been owned 3 or 4 times today. I need to go home soon. Last hand of the day is unfilmed because, of course, our camera died. So we've got ace queen of spades sitting in the hijack. The low jack raises to 45, and I come over the top and make it 140. It folds around, he calls. So the flop comes out jack 4 deuce rainbow, and he checks. I'm kind of all over the place. On the one hand, this flop is not going to be good for my range. On the other hand, it's not going to be good for his range either, and I want to remain uncapped. I'm going to put some pressure on him, and if he happens to call, then I'll slow things down. I make it 110 to go, and he pretty quickly calls. So leaning towards shutting things down until the turn comes in the ace of hearts. He checks, but the way that I'm playing this hand is like I have an overpair. And I figure the best way to disguise my hand is to check when the ace comes in, making it look like I've either got queens or kings, hoping to induce him to bet with a weaker hand on the river. So when he checks, I check it back. The river is a brick. He fires out for 200 and I snap call, only to see him turn over ace jack offsuit. We had him absolutely dead to rights pre-flop. He goes ahead and flops top pair, turns top 2 pair while we get there on ace queen. And that's pretty much a microcosm for how the day went. We're exhausted. We're tired of getting wrecked. We cash out with just under $300 for a grand total of a $1,307 loss on the day. That's negative variance, and that's an end to my upswing. Poker is a cruel game sometimes. One thing I wanted to bring your attention to, this channel is supposed to be what you want it to be. At the end of the day, if you watch, it helps dogs. So we recently put out a poll, and if you haven't filled it out, I'd love to get your feedback. If you click on the main page of the channel and then click on community, you'll see the poll right there. So if you'll just let me know what you want to see more of on future vlogs, I'd really appreciate it. And at the end of the day, it's going to help dogs. So we got wrecked. It is what it is. We didn't play great. We didn't run great. We'll get them next time. Good boy. Good boy. Oh yeah, good boy. We'll see you next time on Poker for Pound Pups. Hey everybody, subscribe here to catch the latest episodes. Also, hit that like button and share these videos with anyone who might enjoy them. Doing that really helps the channel and its goal to support dog shelters, so thanks for watching Poker for Pound Pups, and have a great day.